Admiral Blur had never fancied himself a military genius. In fact, he wasn't even sure he had a single ounce of what one would call genius at all. His species, unconcerned with the affairs of intergalactic warfare and more focused on harvesting energy from the cosmos, had little experience with actual invasions. But now, as he hovered before the Galactic Council, his gelatinous form quivering with barely contained excitement, he was certain that this was it. This was the perfect plan, the one that would conquer Earth without firing a single shot. He cleared his throat, or at least attempted to, as his voice modulator sputtered with the effort to maintain an air of professionalism. "Esteemed members of the Council," Blur began, his tone wobbling slightly with the weight of the moment, "I present to you Operation Wine and Dine." A confused murmur rippled through the assembly of alien dignitaries, each of them blinking in collective bafflement. Several tentacles were raised in the air, some with visible, pulsing uncertainty, while others merely bobbed in mild disappointment. It was yet another of Blur's less than impressive presentations. Now, hear me out," Blur urged, as he gestured wildly to his nervous scientific advisor, Pipsqueak, a creature so small and unassuming that it looked as though it might disintegrate under the weight of a passing comet. "Pipsqueak, please, advance the next slide." Pipsqueak, who had spent an hour in the morning attempting to master the art of intergalactic PowerPoint, tapped his data pad. The hologram displayed a picture of a corked bottle of what appeared to be a deeply red liquid, the kind of thing that would make any sommelier faint with delight. "Our surveillance has revealed something truly remarkable," Blur continued, his excitement bubbling over. "Humans are obsessed with a fermented beverage they call wine. They celebrate with it, they gift it to one another, and some even have entire ceremonies dedicated to its consumption." The High Counselor, Jix, a towering, mantis-like being, clicked her mandibles skeptically. "And this beverage helps us conquer Earth, how exactly?" "That's the brilliance," Blur exclaimed, his gelatinous form rippling with triumph. "You see, humans treat wine as sacred. They store their finest vintages for decades. They create entire rooms, vast cellars just to house their collections. And most importantly," Blur paused dramatically, "they would never ever suspect that their precious wine could be tampered with." Jix raised an eyebrow, well, as much as one could raise an eyebrow when you were, in fact, a mantis, and regarded Blur with equal parts suspicion and interest. "Indeed, Blur," Jix mused, "this is most curious. But how would tampering with wine give us control over the humans?" Blur grinned. His gelatinous grin was a sight to behold, stretching wide across the space of his form. "That, my esteemed counselor, is the true stroke of genius. You see, our scientists have developed a compound, a mind control agent, that binds perfectly with the molecules of tannins, natural compounds found in wine. It's undetectable to human senses. Completely invisible." At this, the other council members, whose species boasted a plethora of sensors far superior to human senses, began to look intrigued. Jix's antennae twitched, showing signs of both confusion and something like admiration. "Furthermore," Blur continued, his voice now dripping with excitement, "the compound grows stronger the longer the wine is stored. Imagine it. Humans' obsession with aging their wines. The more they age their wines, the stronger our control over them becomes. It's the perfect trap." Pipsqueak, who had been nervously tapping on his datapad for the last few moments, cleared his throat, or what passed for a throat in his species. "According to our research, humans consume over 24 billion liters of wine annually. If we were to introduce this mind control agent into their wine supply, we could have the entire species under our control in just a few months." Blur finished triumphantly, his voice swelling with pride at the sheer elegance of his plan. The chamber erupted in excited chittering, with several members changing colors in approval. Some extended their sensory appendages, signaling appreciation. Others were nodding enthusiastically, clearly impressed by the unexpected competence of the plan. And yet, among the whispers of approval, one voice rose, a deep, gravelly voice from the back of the chamber. "Surely you don't mean to suggest that the humans wouldn't notice if we tampered with their wine?" came the skeptical voice of a particularly large reptilian council member. Blur's gelatinous form rippled with amusement. "That, my dear colleague, is the brilliance. Our compound is completely undetectable to the human senses. Pipsqueak, tell them about the test results." "Nonsense!" Blur waved a gelatinous appendage dismissively. "What's the worst that could happen? It's just grape juice with a bit of alcohol. How resistant could humans possibly be to our most powerful mind-altering substance?" Pipsqueak, whose confidence in the plan was rapidly waning, made a mental note to update his resume. Something told him he'd be looking for a new job very soon. Agent Gloop, chief of Earth's infiltration team, was beginning to regret his life choices. Disguised as a human wine critic named Gerald Snootsworth, he stood in the middle of a prestigious Bordeaux vineyard, desperately trying to recall which end of the wine glass he was supposed to drink from. "Aha!" he proclaimed to the other critics, swirling the red liquid in his glass with what he hoped looked like professionalism. "I detect notes of grape, definitely grape, and perhaps a hint of more grape?" The other critics nodded sagely, jotting down his insights in their notebooks, none the wiser to Gloop's utter lack of understanding of the complexities of wine tasting. Gloop, meanwhile, made a mental note to thank whoever had programmed the human infiltration protocols to make wine critics sound so pretentious. It made blending in so much easier. Meanwhile, in Napa Valley, Agent Splat was experiencing her own crisis. Disguised as a vineyard worker named Barbara, she had spent the last 3 hours attempting to operate a simple grape crusher. Every time she asked her supervisor how to do it, the answer was the same. "You just put the grapes in the top, Barbara." "Are you sure you put previous winemaking experience on your resume?" the supervisor asked for the 5th time, raising an eyebrow. "Oh yes, absolutely," Splat responded enthusiastically, accidentally detaching her head slightly in the process and having to quickly reattach it. "I made tons of wine back in Nebraska." "Nebraska? Known for its underwater vineyards?" The supervisor stared at her, skeptical. "Right. And did you get that experience before or after the Great Grape Flood of '97? Splat nodded with forced confidence. "After. It was a great year for underwater vineyards." The supervisor stared at her for a long moment before sighing and walking away, muttering something under his breath about hiring standards going downhill. Splat sighed and turned back to the grape crusher, which, at this point, looked more like a medieval torture device than anything related to winemaking. Back at the Alien Command Center, which they had cleverly disguised as a particularly unsuccessful wine bar in Cleveland, Pipsqueak was coordinating the global contamination effort, stress-eating his way through his 3rd pack of space cookies. "Status report!" he barked at his team, his tiny, nervous eyes darting from one screen to another. "What's the progress?" "France is at 60% contamination," Agent Gloop reported, though he sounded a little distracted. "We had to temporarily suspend operations when Agent Wobble got drunk on the job and tried to marry a grapevine." "Classic Wobble," Pipsqueak muttered, scribbling something on his pad. "Italy's at 75%. Agent Splat chimed in, her voice filled with a sense of pride. "Though we lost Agent Squish when he got into an hour-long argument about whether aliens exist with a local farmer. The farmer won." "California's complete," came a new voice, though we had to explain why our wine critic was trying to drink directly from the fermentation tank. Pipsqueak massaged his temples, or what passed for temples in his species. "Just finish the job. And someone please tell Agent Bubble that no, he cannot put the mind control compound in beer instead of wine because, apparently, wine is too fancy for our needs." The contamination continued over the next few weeks with varying degrees of success, and an alarming number of alien operatives developing an unexpected passion for viticulture. Agent Gloop had even started a wine blog, though his reviews consistently mentioned notes of grape as the primary flavor profile. He also had a habit of reviewing wines based on their potential to become sentient. Meanwhile, back at the command center, Pipsqueak was getting more and more anxious. "Status report," he demanded, his voice trembling slightly. "Mission complete, sir," Agent Gloop reported, his voice filled with what could only be described as reluctant pride. "Every major wine-producing region on Earth has been successfully contaminated with the mind control compound. Operation Vintage Disaster, Wine and Dine is complete." Pipsqueak's hand trembled as he held his datapad, looking over the results. "I really think we should reconsider the potential side effects of this compound. The humans, they might have a unique biological response that we didn't anticipate." Blur, who had been enjoying a rare moment of peace in his gelatinous puddle, looked up with a satisfied grin. "Nonsense, Pipsqueak. We've done it. We just have to wait for the humans to do what they do best, drink themselves into submission." Pipsqueak frowned, clearly not as convinced. "But, sir, have you considered how much they drink? It's just grape juice with a bit of alcohol, yes, but the amount they consume might overwhelm our compound's effect." Blur waved his appendage dismissively. "What's the worst that could happen? They'll just get a little tipsy. It's not like we're handing them the secret of the universe in every bottle. This will work. Trust me." Pipsqueak made a mental note to start updating his LinkedIn profile. Something told him he'd be looking for a new job very soon. The Galactic Command Center, disguised as an ordinary Cleveland wine bar, buzzed with quiet excitement. Admiral Blur hovered anxiously by the main observation screen, his gelatinous form flickering with tension. The time had come. Humans across Earth had been consuming the contaminated wine for weeks, and now it was only a matter of time before their minds fell under his control. "We wait," Blur muttered under his breath, as if willing the moment to come. His tendrils twitched in nervous anticipation. "Soon, they will all be ours." Pipsqueak stood nearby, nervously glancing between Blur and the screens. "Sir, the humans, are you sure they will submit? There is a chance we missed something in our testing." "Nonsense," Blur snapped. "Humans are simple creatures. They drink wine, they feel good, and then they obey our will. What could possibly go wrong?" He turned his gaze back to the screen, where humans in various locations across Earth were celebrating New Year's Eve. It was statistically one of the highest wine consumption dates of the year. Blur's confidence was unshakable. "Any moment now," he said, almost whispering to himself, "any moment they'll all fall under our control." 3 hours passed. The observation screen flickered and buzzed with various live feeds from Earth, but nothing happened. A New Year's party in Sydney showed humans dancing, singing, and generally making fools of themselves. A particularly rowdy group was attempting a dance called the conga, their enthusiasm far surpassing their ability to stay in rhythm. "Wait, wait," one of the analysts said, adjusting the magnification. "Perhaps we need to zoom in. Maybe the mind control is too subtle to see at this range." Blur's gelatinous form rippled with frustration. "Increase the magnification. We need to see their submission clearly." The screen zoomed in on the scene. The humans were still having a great time. Too much fun, in fact. The only thing they seemed to be submitting to was the music, and possibly their own laughter. "Perhaps we should increase the dosage," one of the analysts ventured cautiously. "We've already tripled the dosage, sir," Pipsqueak interjected, voice quivering. "And the humans, they are still behaving as if nothing's changed." Blur's skin turned a shade of purple not seen outside of a deep space nebula. "Impossible," he hissed. "Our compound is the most potent in the galaxy. Even the mighty Zorks of Beju I succumbed after a single drop. I think I should—" Pipsqueak started to protest, but was cut off by the screen flickering again. One of the analysts spoke up. "Sir, this is not what we were expecting. We're getting reports from the agents on the ground. It seems the humans are drinking more than ever." Blur whipped around. "What do you mean, more than ever? What are they drinking?" "Apparently," the analyst continued, "they're mixing our mind-controlled wine with something called fruit juice to make something called sangria. They're serving it in buckets." "What?" Blur's voice cracked. "Buckets? No, no, no. This cannot be. The humans should be—" "Sir," Pipsqueak interrupted nervously, "I think there might be something you should see." With a sinking feeling, Blur turned to face the monitor. A new screen came to life, showing Agent Gloop in the midst of a wine-tasting event. Gloop, still disguised as Gerald Snootsworth, was watching in horror as a human sommelier downed an entire bottle of their most concentrated batch. Instead of falling under mind control, the human simply paused, frowning slightly. "This wine is a bit young," the sommelier declared, swirling the wine in his glass. "Could use another decade in the cellar." Blur's appendages flailed in shock. "What? No, this is impossible!" "Maybe our compound is too subtle for humans to notice," the analyst offered hesitantly. "Perhaps they need more time for it to take effect." Blur's voice shook with disbelief. "We've given them enough time. This is a failure." No, Pipsqueak interjected, waving his data pad. "I've got some updated test results. It seems the humans have developed a remarkable tolerance to psychoactive substances, particularly those delivered through alcohol." "Tolerance?" Blur's gelatinous form deflated slightly as the weight of the words settled in. "You're telling me they can handle it? They're immune to our mind control?" "Well, not exactly," Pipsqueak continued, fumbling with his pad. "But they've developed a biological mechanism that processes our compound like regular alcohol. Instead of, succumbing to suggestion, they just experience a mild buzz and then continue drinking as if nothing happened." Blur was speechless for a moment. "So, the wine just makes them drunk instead of controlled?" Pipsqueak nodded. "Yes, sir." A new report came in from Agent Gloop. "Sir," he said through the communication link, "I regret to inform you that the humans are showing no signs of mind control. In fact, they're having a great time. One of them even tried to start a wine fountain at a wedding in Venice. And there's this thing called bottomless wine in some places, where they just keep refilling your glass until you can't walk anymore." Blur felt his gelatinous form shrink even further in despair. "Why? Why is this happening?" "Well," Pipsqueak said, almost sympathetically, "humans are resilient. They also seem to have a deep cultural connection to alcohol, and they might actually be enjoying this process." "How could they enjoy it?" Blur lamented. "This was supposed to be an invasion, not a party." Across the globe, humans were drinking, laughing, and enjoying the chaos of their celebrations. At the same time, in France, a sommelier had declared that the mind control wine had interesting complexity and paired well with cheese. Blur watched in helpless horror as another report came in. It was from Agent Gloop, once again reporting from a vineyard. "I think we're dealing with a problem here, sir," Gloop reported, looking even more disheveled than before. "Humans are commenting on how our wine is really enhancing the experience. They're calling it the best vintage of 2024, and some are even asking if we have a premium label." This time, Blur didn't answer. He simply watched the chaos unfold as humans everywhere raised their glasses to a new year and a new vintage, unaware that the wine they were drinking had been tampered with by aliens who had underestimated the true resilience of the human spirit. A week passed since the catastrophic failure of the mind control wine operation, and Admiral Blur's confidence had turned into quiet despair. The Galactic Command Center had been unusually quiet, save for the occasional groan of defeat emanating from Blur's gelatinous form. His agents on Earth had reported a bizarre reversal. Instead of enslaving humanity, the wine had only fueled their exuberance. Even the most sophisticated mind control techniques in their arsenal had no effect on these resilient creatures. Humans drank, partied, and laughed themselves into a stupor with no signs of obedience whatsoever. Blur sat slumped before the main screen, watching as the latest report came in. Agent Gloop, disguised as a wine critic, was now posting a review of their mysterious vintage online. The report flashed. 2024's Mystery Vintage, a delightfully mind-bending experience. "This can't be happening," Blur muttered. "It's like they're mocking us. How could they not fall under our control after ingesting our most potent compound?" Pipsqueak, hovering nervously beside Blur, cleared his throat. "Sir, we may have underestimated their cultural resilience." "Resilience?" Blur hissed, his form quivering. "They're supposed to be under our control. This is a disaster of galactic proportions." "Well, it's not all bad," Pipsqueak ventured cautiously, holding up his data pad. "At least our agents have successfully integrated themselves into the human wine culture. They're learning from it. Some of them are even developing a taste for it." Blur froze. "Learning from it? Developing a taste for it? You mean they're actually—" "Yes," Pipsqueak confirmed, his voice small. "Agent Gloop started a wine blog. He's posting reviews of every wine he tastes. Good reviews. And Agent Splat? Well, she's taken up mixing cocktails. She says it's a great way to get humans to trust us." Blur's head sagged. "Are you telling me that, instead of controlling humanity, my agents have become wine enthusiasts?" Pipsqueak nervously nodded. "Well, sir, it seems that we've accidentally created the perfect cover for infiltrating their society." At this, Blur let out a long sigh. It was true. His agents had blended in so well with Earth's wine culture that they were now more likely to be seen at a wine tasting than executing a planetary takeover. The real kicker? Some humans had even started buying the wine with its notes of alien invasion and mind-bending complexity, praising it as the finest vintage of the year. "All right, enough is enough," Blur finally said, his gelatinous form snapping upright with determination. "We have to do something about this. These humans are not just surviving the invasion, they're thriving." "We could rethink the plan?" Pipsqueak offered weakly. "No," Blur said, his tone resolute. "We need to get back to basics. If we're going to turn this around, we need to find out what makes humans tick, and I think I know just the place to start." A few days later, Blur stood at the helm of a new operation. His agents, including Gloop, Splat, and the others, were gathered at what had become Earth's most popular and exclusive wine-tasting event, the Grape Justice League. Led by none other than Buck Thompson, Earth's most infamous wine critic, the group had formed what they claimed was a no-holds-barred wine review group. They had tasted every wine known to humanity and some that even humans had never tried. And now they were ready to try their hand at something new, wine made from alien grapes. "Welcome, everyone, to the inaugural meeting of the Grape Justice League," Buck Thompson announced to the group, raising a glass of mind-bending wine. "We're here today to taste something truly extraordinary, something that could change the entire course of wine history." Blur stood at the back, disguised as one of the critics, his form slightly more translucent than usual. He'd managed to infiltrate the group, hoping that it would give him access to the key to understanding how humans could resist his mind control compound. He had to admit, humans were unlike anything he had ever encountered before. "So, Buck," Agent Gloop said, stepping forward, "what's the verdict on this mystery vintage you've been raving about?" Buck Thompson took another sip and nodded thoughtfully. "Well, it's got an interesting finish. Notes of blackberry and oak, but with something unidentifiable. A little metallic? Maybe even, dare I say, a hint of intergalactic subjugation? He chuckled as the others laughed in unison. Blur felt a flicker of concern. They're drinking it like it's just another bottle of wine. We could market this wine, Buck continued, as a premium product, you know. It's got layers of flavor that even the most experienced sommeliers can't quite put their finger on. And the complexity. Wow, it's almost like it has a story behind it, like it's from somewhere otherworldly. That's the problem, Gloop muttered under his breath, looking over at Blur. They don't realize they're being manipulated. Blur had heard enough. He couldn't let his operation collapse under the weight of a wine-tasting party. He was going to have to adapt again. The meeting continued, with Buck leading the group into deeper discussions about how to integrate the alien wine into Earth's burgeoning wine market. But Blur's mind was racing. As much as he had tried to control the situation, the humans seemed to be enjoying it all. An alien invasion, a complex wine, and for some bizarre reason, they were thriving. Pipsqueak's voice came in through a private channel. "Sir, you need to see this." Blur's appendages twitched in frustration. "What now?" "Sir, it's the humans. They've created something called a wine festival. It's becoming a global event. They've invited all our agents, and they're serving our wine as the headliner." Blur's gelatinous form sagged even lower. "We've made it worse. This is it. The entire planet is going to embrace the alien wine. What's next? Are we going to be selling out Earth to the highest bidder?" "Sir," Pipsqueak said, sensing Blur's growing panic, "maybe we can still turn this around. There's a saying here on Earth, if you can't beat them, join them. Perhaps we need to rethink the mind control angle." Blur sighed deeply, his form deflating. Maybe it's time for a new plan. Maybe it's time to pour one out for our failed invasion. A year had passed since the great failure of Operation Wine and Dine. Earth had, rather unexpectedly, become a thriving hub of intergalactic wine culture, and the humans were celebrating. Admiral Blur, now officially in charge of intergalactic beverage relations, had made peace with his defeat, though he never would have imagined that it would lead to such success. The first annual Intergalactic Wine and Spirits Festival was underway, and the Galactic Council had somehow transformed it into the event of the century. Every major species across the galaxy had traveled to Earth to partake in the festival, a dazzling celebration of wine, spirits, and the surprising resilience of the human race. Admiral Blur stood at the heart of the event, now a seasoned veteran of the wine world, his gelatinous form glowing with an uncharacteristic shade of calm. He had found himself adapting to the new role in an unexpected way. He was enjoying it. The humans had managed to turn their near invasion into a party, a massive galactic-scale party, and Blur, who had once wanted to conquer Earth, now found himself sipping wine with the most powerful beings in the universe. The irony was not lost on him. "Sir," Pipsqueak called, approaching cautiously, his tiny form bobbing nervously. "I've got the latest reports from the festival. Everything's going better than expected." Blur turned his head slowly. "Better than expected? How is that even possible?" "Well," Pipsqueak continued, "the humans have taken your mind control wine and, well, embraced it. They've launched a new marketing campaign calling it Alien Blend, and it's selling out faster than we can produce it. We've even managed to license the wine to some of the more prominent vineyards. It's everywhere." Blur's appendages twitched. "They're selling it?" "Yes, sir," Pipsqueak said, tapping his pad. "It's a bestseller. The humans even began mixing it into cocktails. Some of their more creative mixologists have dubbed it the Zorks. The sales numbers are astronomical." Admiral Blur, who had spent the better part of a year wallowing in defeat, now found himself at the center of a galactic wine empire. The very thing he had planned to use to control humanity had become the universe's latest trend. Humans had taken his failed invasion plan and turned it into a cultural phenomenon. They drank it with pride, shared it with their friends, and even celebrated its bizarre origins. The humans, however, were blissfully unaware that their favorite wine, the one that they deemed the most complex and mind-bending vintage in existence, was originally crafted with the intention to dominate them. As Blur continued to reflect on the absurdity of it all, a familiar face appeared in front of him. "Admiral Blur!" Buck Thompson, Earth's most renowned wine critic, grinned, holding out a glass. "I'd say you've created the perfect blend. Truly a masterpiece." Blur, now fully embracing his new role as the official wine ambassador of the universe, accepted the glass. "To new beginnings?" he offered, raising his glass toward Buck. "To new beginnings," Buck agreed, clinking his glass with Blur's. "And to human ingenuity. Who would have thought that a simple beverage could unite the galaxy in such a way?" Blur couldn't help but chuckle, the sound vibrating through his gelatinous form. "I certainly didn't think so. But I've learned something important during this whole invasion debacle." Buck raised an eyebrow. "Oh? And what's that?" "The humans," Blur said thoughtfully. "They're unpredictable. But that's what makes them so fascinating. Instead of falling under our control, they've embraced what we gave them, turned it into something entirely their own, and in the end, I think, that's what truly makes them remarkable." Pipsqueak, who had been standing quietly nearby, glanced up at Blur. "Are you saying, sir, that we failed because we underestimated the humans?" Blur gave a wide, knowing grin. "No, Pipsqueak, we didn't fail at all, we just had to adapt. And in the end, maybe humanity's biggest strength is their ability to turn every setback into an opportunity." Just then, a new report came in from the festival. Agent Gloop, now a well-respected wine blogger and critic, had posted a new review of the alien wine. This one focused on its mysterious complexity and how it somehow made people feel connected to something greater. "Great," Blur muttered, a hint of pride creeping into his voice. "Now they think it's philosophical." Pipsqueak let out a small laugh. "Well, at least they're not thinking of it as an alien conspiracy anymore." "True," Blur mused. "Instead, they think they're all part of some cosmic enlightenment brought on by a glass of wine." The sounds of laughter and cheers filled the air as the Galactic Wine Festival continued, with guests from all over the universe clinking glasses, exchanging stories, and enjoying the very beverage that had almost led to Earth's downfall. Admiral Blur raised his glass once again, his thoughts momentarily drifting back to his original plan to conquer Earth. He had failed, but in the most unexpected way. Now, Earth wasn't a conquered planet. It was a thriving, dynamic world, where the most sophisticated minds of the galaxy gathered to share in their love of wine. "And to think," Blur muttered to himself, "it all started with grape juice and a little bit of alien ambition." "To alien ambition," Buck grinned, lifting his glass high. "And the humans who turned it into an art form." Blur smiled, the warm glow of the wine filling him with a sense of peace he had never expected. "To Earth," he said quietly, raising his glass to the stars. "To humanity."